Hello, Year 10. It's Miss Crowhurst here. I hope that you've all had an okay break. This is lesson one of our lessons for this term. In this term, we're going to be focusing on English language paper 2, which is one of the parts of the English language exams that you will sit in year 11. Before we start and go over exactly what the English language paper 2 exam involves, I just want you to have a look at the key objectives for this exam paper and what you'll be working on this term. So these are the key skills that we'll be working on. And what I'd like you to do is for each one, copy the objective out and think about whether you feel confident about that objective. And if you felt confident, you would write green, or if you didn't feel confident at all, you would write red, or if you're kind of in the middle, you'd write amber. So for example, if I was looking at objective one, I would copy that out and write, I can identify and interpret explicit and implicit ideas in a text. Now, for that one, if I didn't feel very confident understanding the obvious and a bit deeper, more complicated ideas in text that I read, then I might write red. But if I felt kind of in the middle about that one, I might write amber. So for each one of those, copy it out, write the color linked to how you feel in terms of confidence, and pause the video to do this. Okay, so pause the video if you need a bit more time. Make sure you get those objectives down and you reflect on how confident you feel about each one. So this term, as I said, we're going to be learning to tackle the questions on the English language paper. There are two papers to get your English language GCSE, but section A for paper 2. So there are two papers to get an English language GCSE. The first one, you look at fiction text. So you look at one text and you answer some questions, 4 questions, then you get a chance to write your own piece of descriptive or narrative writing. You would have worked on that in year 9. And that paper is worth 80 marks and it takes about an hour and 45 minutes, and that's 50% of the GCSE. The one that we're looking at this term, this one here, paper 2, has 2 sections again. Section A is reading. You get 2 texts. You get one nonfiction text and one nonfiction text that's come really from the past, so the 19th century or early 20th century, and you'll get those 2 texts, so that there'll be some parts of that that ask you to compare. So it's a bit different to paper 1 because you get 2 texts. And then section B, the writing section, instead of writing something creative, you get to write something to present a viewpoint, so a non-fiction text of your own, something like an article, a speech, a letter, something along those lines. And that exam will last an hour and 45 minutes. It's worth 80 marks, and it's the other 50% of that English language GCSE. So I just wanted to think about a couple of things. This term, we're just looking at the reading section, so looking at 2 texts and looking at the 4 questions they'll ask you to look at. But just think about some things. So in lessons, I'd normally get you to think, pair, or share, but I'll give you some time to think about these 2 questions below, and then I'll share my ideas. So the key part of this reading section of paper 2 is to read 2 nonfiction texts. So first of all, what exactly is nonfiction? And what kind of text might you see? So what ideas do you initially have about that? Obviously, nonfiction is writing that's based on real events, more factual based things. They tend to choose a lot of articles, sometimes letters, a lot of travel writing actually. So it's a bit different than paper 1 because it's not something that's based on things that are made up. It's something that has happened, that's being described, analyzed, explored in some form or another. And that's usually in the form of an article or a travel extract or a letter. So I've already answered what text you might see, but they can really put anything in there, but that's what we've seen the most of in the past. So it's really important that when you're looking at questions on English exam papers, as boring as it may be, that you really understand each question. that you're being asked to tackle. We're going to be looking at this a lot this term. So it's just as important to read the question on an English paper than to read the text. So it really makes sure you understand what you're being asked to do. So in the English language paper, it's really important to be able to break down the question. So there's two types of words in exam questions. There's command words, or words that hint at what you need to do or explore in your answer, and you should get into the habit of circling these. And there's topic words. Topic words tell you the topic that you need to focus on, and you can get into the practice of underlining these. So I was just going to do question 3, which is the toughest. So these are the 4 types of questions that will always come up in an English language exam, usually in this order. I've never seen them in any other order, and these are the marks that they're worth to make up that 40 marks part of the paper. So I will look at this one. So how has the writer used language to describe the mountains? Now that one's a bit tough because it's asking a question with the word how, but if I was to look at the command words, I would pick out how has the writer used language. And when I'm asked a how question in English, I'm really being asked to explore and analyze. So what I need to do is, write paragraphs that explore and analyze how the writers use language. But I also need to look at the topic that I am, exploring, which is, the language that describes, and also the mountains. So if I didn't pay attention to those words in the question, I might look at the text and pick out the wrong quotes or not explore the right thing. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the video, copy out questions 1, 2, and 4, and try to circle any command words that you find. They usually come at the start of the task or question, not always though. And then underline any topic words, and there can be more than one. So do that just to get into the habit of breaking down exam questions, because it really does help you get marks. Okay, if you need extra time, as always, pause the video. So today, besides just talking about what English language paper 2 is, and section A is what we're looking at this term, I also wanted to go over question 1. Question 1 on English language paper 2 will always look like this. And it's the easiest question on the paper, and it's always worth 4 marks. So it's a true-false question, which everybody likes those kind of questions because you don't have to write anything of your own. And what it'll do is it'll tell you a specific section of one of the sources, because remember you'll have 2 sources or text to look at. And then it'll tell you to choose 4 of the statements out of 8 which are true. I haven't seen any questions that ask you to find false statements, so we can assume that they'll always be true statements you're looking for. And what you would do is look at the text, read it carefully, look at the questions, the statements, and keep cross-referencing, going back to the question, the statement, and then back to the text to check, is it true, is it false? And you can use process of elimination to work out what the true questions are if you like using that process. So we've got a little practice one here. Have a go at this question, and you should only give yourself, when you pause the video, 5 minutes, because in the exam you only have limited time. You've got probably less than an hour to do that whole full section of all 4 questions in the exam, so you don't want to spend too much time on a question that's worth only 4 marks. So only give yourself 5 minutes for this, and read the text, copy out the 4 statements that are true. So pause the video to do that. I'll move this so you can actually see it. Okay, so pause if you are not finished, and I'm just going to go over the correct answers. So, basically, how did you do? Let's check your answers. A is true. The first time Mark Doyle saw anyone surfing was in 1953. C is also true. So in the 1950s, there were very few surfers in California. D, most surfers like to surf in the early morning. And H, the surfers looked fit and suntanned. Okay, so those are the 4 true statements. I hope you got them all correct. The task now that you should get on with for the rest of the lesson is the worksheet that's attached to this assignment, either on ClassCharts if you're looking at that, or Teams if you're looking at that. So open the document, and it's got a lot of different extracts on different topics. So read each extract, and you're going to create your own true or false statements for each one. Or there's a different option. In some classes, your teacher may just set you these extracts with a range of true or false questions to try and answer on your own, just to give you a bit more practice. So whatever the worksheet is for true or false, open it up and do the task. Remember, you only have 4 true statements, and there's 8 options total. So you'll have to read the extract carefully in order to make those true or false questions work. At the end, if you have created your own true or false statements for the task for each extract, you can practice. Try them out on someone in your household. Were your questions too easy, or were they too difficult? And that's just an interesting way to see if you can come up with them yourself. So you spend the rest of the time in the lesson reading those extracts carefully and completing the task of either answering the true or false questions that are there or creating your own.